Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So glad you're here today for another video. And in today's video, I wanted to share my recent reads that I've done. I know I did this about 3 weeks ago, and I thought I would update you guys on some more things that I have read through. I'm hoping again to be filming a little bit more consistently. I'm hoping to do a book haul for you guys as well soon, and I have some exciting news to share. If you are a fellow book nerd, you guys will be like, yes, you're living the dream, Tanya. So I recently, as of a month ago, I believe now, I just got a job working at the library. Yes, you guys, I used to work at a library when I was in college, story time, and I loved it. I worked at the circulation desk, and I went to college to become a teacher, and I still am. I'm still teaching part-time. I love teaching, but I have always loved reading, loved libraries, so I always was like, oh, I wish I could work back at a library. And with COVID and things were closed, so libraries weren't really hiring around us, and I was so glad to finally get into a library, like actually a job working. I'm just so excited. It's a little bit of a drive away. It's like half an hour for me, but it's a really good chance to listen to audiobooks or like books on CD and stuff. So that has been a new exciting thing for us too. So and all of our kids are in school, so it's just been a new adjustment with everything. So I'm hoping to have more time to film and share with you all these book nerdy fun things that we all love. And yeah, so if you're interested in those kinds of things, definitely subscribe to the channel. And let's get into today's video. I'm going to be sharing things that I have recently read, and I always like to preface this, I am a mom of 3 kids, so I don't get the chance to read like 12 books a month like some amazing other YouTubers here on YouTube are able to do, which I watch their videos and I'm like, inspiration. But yeah, this is just over a course of like a little over a month or so of things, probably maybe like 2 months of things that I have read. So let's get into this video. And most of these I don't have in print. This month was really a lot of my Kindle and borrowing from Libby. I don't have the print of books, but as usual, I will put a picture so you kind of know what I'm talking about, and I will have my Goodreads down below, and let's get into this video. All right, the first one we'll start with is actually a picture book that I just read a couple days ago. I found it when I was shelving at work. Someone had returned it, and the title just caught my eye because now that I work at a library, it's called Dear Librarian, and I was curious about it. And it's obviously a quick read. It's a picture book, but you guys, I really teared up. Like, I was working and the other employee was like, are you okay? And I'm like, this book just really like, oh, like it got me in like what, like 25, 30 pages. It just really resonated with me. If you know, that's kind of the power of books, like when it really connects to you on that level. And it just being a picture book, I always tell people, little side note, I am a K through 12 teacher, and I just remember sometimes people underestimate the power of picture books. Like sometimes they are very powerful. And so this book is called Dear Librarian, and it talks about, it's a true story about the author, an experience that she went through, and just how she went through a season of homelessness with her family growing up. And it talks about, just their struggle being able to find really a place that's home until they finally do, and just the different places where they're staying, and how the little girl, when she's growing up, like nothing really feels like home until one of the places they go to is a library. And she just said it felt, there wasn't enough space for her. There was really good books and materials to see and the toys to play with. And she said the best thing was the librarian there, and that she listened to her, and just help her when she can, help find interesting things, talk to her. And every day she would go to the library, and she loved the librarian, how safe she felt at the library. And then eventually she herself, that inspired her to grow up and become a librarian. And so it's just kind of this, now a thank you kind of letter in a way, this children's book that the author published, to the librarian, that helped just, give her that sense of safety and just fun and inspiration for, her own life now. And I just really, like, I feel like I'm gonna cry not talking about it. Books to me really are, they're so powerful, and it's just, to me, like I told my husband, I was like, I feel like I'm living the dream. Like, I've wanted to be a teacher, I've wanted to be a mom, and I want to work at a library, and I'm doing all those things now, and it's amazing because growing up, I didn't always have the greatest childhood, and when we came here as refugees from Ukraine, where I grew up in Ukraine, we didn't have libraries. Like, I did not know what a library was until I came here to the US. I love to read, but I only had like a few books at my house. I just read the same thing over and over. I didn't know, you know, we didn't have money for books. And so when I came to a library, I was like, oh, you have to buy these. And it was just amazing to see all these books. And the best thing is, again, like, I could totally relate to this because the librarians there, I'm still friends with some of the librarians that, you know, I knew at my local library, like years, 20 something years later, I'm still friends with them. And they were just so kind. They did make you feel safe. That's what I love about libraries, especially, like, they're just there for everyone. And to just, you know, even as a little kid, like, they knew the things I was into. They knew my hobbies. They knew my favorite authors. They would talk to me about them. They'd say, you know, they'd find books for me, and they would think of me throughout the week and be like, hey, I have... Anyway, I'm sorry, long tangent, story time, but it's just like I could resonate so much with that feeling and how they made me feel, that it gave that same passion for me to want to work in a library. And I just... 5 out of 5 stars for this book. Is just like a personal connection, especially. It's just really sweet, and I loved it, and I definitely recommend it. Again, short read, you'll be done in under 10 minutes, but it's just one of those good books that I'm really glad I read it. Next one is, there are 2 books. They are part of a trilogy, I believe, so far, like a series, and it is a really cute romance, like fiction romance series. I believe the series is called, oh, I forget something. It's like Moose, Lake Alaska. I forget the name, but they're set in Alaska. And the first book in the series that really got me into it was The Tourist Attraction. Again, I read this on Libby. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. The biggest reason is, honestly, I love the romance. It was cute and sweet, but I also thought it was so funny. So it's the story of this woman, Zoe, and she basically saves up all her money. She's been wanting to go to Alaska forever, so she comes to go to Alaska because her friend Lana is actually super uber rich, and she's doing business there, but she's her best friend. And Zoe is coming to basically go on like a little vacation with Lana. And then there's this guy, Graham, who lives in Moose Springs, I think is what it's called. And he's kind of like, you know, the grump of the town. He doesn't like any of the tourists that are always coming to Alaska. He's like, ugh, why are they here? Why can't they just leave? He likes to be alone, you know, in his like wilderness and his space. But just how he is, I really resonate. He's just really funny. Like, I actually laughed out loud so many times when I was reading this book, and I read it within 2 days. It was, like I said, a really cute story, but the humor just made it for me, and it really got me to try to read the next book in the series. So for this book, The Tourist Attraction, I gave it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed the story, and I haven't read too many things like set in Alaska, so that was kind of interesting to learn about, you know, things there, and like things about the landscape and just the history of things too. That was interesting. And then the second book in this series is set again in that same town. It's a continuation of the different characters, and it's called Mistletoe and Mr Right, and it follows the story then of her best friend Lana. And this one I gave 4 out of 5, maybe 3.5. I'm kind of still deciding. I didn't read through it as fast as the first one. I feel like the first ones are always the best. But I felt like this one, so it's the story of her friend Lana, and again, she's in this town. It follows a little bit of the continuation of things that were going on in the first book, and just the other characters, also Rick, again from the first book, and it follows their kind of romance and the story with the town and what's going on. And Lana has some business things that she's, you know, entangled in with the town and trying to figure that out. And then of course there's a romance. Again, I really appreciate this author's humor. I felt like it was really good, and it was funny in these goofy situations that happened. Like there's, in this second one, there's this funny situation where they go to this restaurant, and the one thing I'll give you is just stuffed squirrels everywhere, like taxidermy. It was so funny. Some things were a little bit more predictable, but the biggest thing, I didn't really like the ending of the book. I felt like it ended kind of abruptly for me. Like, it didn't end how I expected it, really. Like, I felt like we were going, and it was like, pff, and I was kind of like, I don't know if they're going to continue it in the third one. It's on my list to read, but I've gotten distracted by other things. So I have not read the third one, but I would recommend the series. Let me know if you down below if you have read it before and your thoughts on it. But overall, I'd say pretty good. So for the second book, 4 out of 5 stars for me. The next book I read is called The Secrets of Midwives. This is one I checked out from my library, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did read it pretty quickly. It was easy to get into. It's not too long of a book. And so it follows the story. It's 3 generations. So it's a grandma, her daughter, and then the granddaughter, you know. And so they're all midwives of different, you know, so they're midwives, and basically there are secrets and things involved. But the book starts off that basically the granddaughter, and I'm not giving anything away, the granddaughter, she finds herself, she's pregnant. And she's an adult. They're all adults, you know, so it's not. The granddaughter is pregnant, and basically she says, there's no father. It's just, I'm pregnant. And she will not reveal who the father is, so there is this mystery element. And then there's these things going on with each of the lives of obviously the women, like the mom and the grandma. And then there is this secret that the grandmother has. And so that, I think, is the most interesting intrigue, kind of keeping you in the story. Like I said, it's a pretty fast read. It's an interesting look also, like from the perspective, I'm a mom of 3 kids. I've had midwives through all 3 pregnancies. So it's an interesting experience, you know, reading about midwifery. Even if you're not a mom, I think you'd be interested in just seeing also how midwifery has changed over the years. If when you look at how it was for the grandma and for the mom and now for the daughter, and just the different experiences within the medical field, I think that's interesting also. My thing again is the ending was a little bit weird for me, and I feel like, I don't know, it just kind of, for me, it was kind of a weird, like, it didn't fully mesh with the plot, I felt like, of what was going on with the secrecy of the daughter, you know, with who the father of her child is and all this. And a little bit predictable. For me personally, I felt like I kind of predicted a little bit of the grandma's secret. But it was still a good read. I would recommend it. 4 out of 5 for me. Yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. The next one I read, again, I've heard a lot about this one for a while, but I finally got around to it, was the Kiss Quotient. And I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I don't know. I know some people like totally really love it. For me, and okay, I don't know. I felt like it was definitely steamy. So if that's not like your thing and you don't want to read that, do not read this book. But the story is basically, the story is about this woman named Stella, and she has Asperger's and she's on the spectrum. And so for her, it's really difficult to understand like physical or like, you know, like social interactions with things, but she's really great at her job. She does like math things and she's amazing at her job and she succeeds at that. But basically she hires this escort, his name is Michael, and basically her goal is to learn like sexual things and physical things and social interactions, which, I mean, I guess just going off of that, you kind of expect it, but I felt like it was almost like, I don't know, is it weird? Like, I felt like it was almost like too much to the story. I love the parts of the story where his interactions with his family and just their relationship, and like when they, like the romance began to blossom. I really did like that. I felt like, even though I know that that was the intention, you know, it tells you in the story that she's hiring him to like teach her these things, but I feel like it was almost like too much of like the sexual part for me, because I just felt like, I don't know, like I don't mind reading, you know, like sexual things and sex scenes in some books, but I feel like it was almost just like that's all I was reading for like the first half of the book, and I was just like, okay, like I get it. I don't know, like it just, that kind of took it away from me like a little bit. So I don't know, it was okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but again, if you don't read like spice or steamy stuff, definitely don't read this one. But it wasn't horrible, but just like, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So 3 out of 5 for me, not horrible, but I might check out the next one. I think there's a series and see how that one is, but not really in a rush right now. Next book that I read was the On Honeymooners. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 for a few different reasons. So one, it hooked me from the beginning. Two, again, the humor. I love when a book can make me laugh out loud, and it was funny. I liked the cute romance and the story. I also liked, because it's the story of this couple, if you're not sure what it's about, I can never remember names, you guys. I always have to look. It was the story of Olive and Ethan, and what I really loved also is they were based in Minnesota, where I am. So a lot of the times when they were talking about references, it's like a certain street or certain things, and I was like, I know where that is. So that was a really added element, like that was really fun for me. And it's the, like I said, it's the story of Olive and Ethan, and basically Olive's sister marries his brother, if I'm correct, and at the wedding ceremony everybody gets like super bad food poisoning except the two of them. And so there's this honeymoon that her sister obviously had, you know, saved for their wedding, but they're obviously sick and like they can't go. So she's her sister is her twin, and so she was like, you know what, take the honeymoon, you go, take time off. And it's for two people obviously. So Ethan, you know, and they don't like each other, so like enemies kind of to lovers sort of thing, and they go on this honeymoon to Maui, I believe it was, and it's just, there's all these things going on. I love the story. I flew through it in 2 days. Again, so funny, good romance, and good a little bit of like intrigue and mystery of things going on. I really liked it. 5 out of 5, definitely recommend it, and I'm excited to read other things from the author. I really enjoyed her writing. And the next book I read, and this is one that I do actually own, is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Now, Frederick Bachman is one of those authors where I feel people, I mean, like with any author, it's like some people really like them, some people don't. I happen to really, really love his writing. There's something about it. I've read A Man Called Ove by him, loved it, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm trying to think what else I've read by him, because I'm reading something else by him as well right now. But I read this and I loved it. There is just something about his writing where he finds a way to make things, it's like he makes you think about humanity. He has wonderful, like I always underline his book. There's just how he writes is just, it's beautiful, I feel like, to me, and it resonates with things for me. And also it's just, he deals with really serious topics. Like in this book, he deals with the topics of like suicide, death of family members, like, you know, financial struggle, like so many deep things, but yet he does it in a way where I'm not like depressed about life and I'm just like, why am I you know what I mean? It's just, he does it really well in the storytelling. And basically in a way it's also a mystery, because there is this supposed bank robbery hostage situation, and there's I think there's like 7 or 8 different people, and you're kind of looking at the lives of all these different people and how it's all connected. And you're also looking at the life of this bank robber and really understanding where this bank robber is coming from, why they are doing what they are doing, and again hearing about the stories of each of these people and somehow how they're all intertwined. It's a very good read. I gave it a 5 out of 5, and I am starting another book that I'm reading by him, also loving that one. But let me know if you guys have read any of the other books. It's I basically, for him, I will buy any of these books because I feel like I haven't read one that I do not like yet. So definitely 5 out of 5 for me. Love this book, would recommend. I cried after I read it. It was good. I loved it. The last two books, or no, the next two books are a series. I'm so excited because the third one has finally come out. I just got it from my library. I'm excited to read it. But it is called, the first one is Bringing Down the Duke. I actually read this, again, from Libby as part of a booklet that I'm part of. I had no idea what it was, but it seemed interesting and I really liked it. It's a historical romance, and the first book, so I gave both of these books, it's Bringing Down the Duke, sorry, I'm looking at my phone, and A Rogue of One's Own, so they're part of the series. I gave them 4 out of 5 stars, and I really, really like them. Like I said, they're historical romances, and they follow these different women. That's a friend group, and they're from the time they're in England, and they're from the time when the Women's Voting Act, these women are fighting to get it removed. It was basically an act that said that in order to be able to vote, you needed to own property. But when a woman got married, anything she owned automatically became her husband's, therefore she lost her right to vote, which obviously we can see the problems with that. So it's following these different women, and then of course all these different men that, you know, in their kind of romances with those men, but also following the history, which I really also enjoyed. As you guys know, historical fiction is normally my favorite genre, but I just really love it. There's a little bit of steam in each book, but the romance is good, the story's good. I love some of the humor and banter, and I'm excited to read the third one because it just came out, and so I'm excited to get into that one. Definitely would recommend the series. I think it's really good. I flew through both of them, I think, within 2 days each, so really, really good. Recommend the series. And let me know if there's other things like it that are similar, like historical romance kind of. If you've read these books, let me know down below, because I really like that genre of books. So if you have any other recommendations like it, please let me know down below. And the last book that I read was The Invisible Life of Ada Riles, because again, I see it all the time, you know, on YouTube and all these things, and people are like, oh, raving about it. So I was able to finally get a copy of it on Libby, and I read it. I did go through it pretty fast. I did get into the story. This is my first V.E. Schwab book. I've never read anything by her. I don't know. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because I was interested in it, but also I don't know if I loved how it ended, and I don't really love, I don't know, sometimes the character drove me nuts, but then there was also this intrigue. And if you don't know the story, so Ada Riles, basically she's faced with this decision in the story. Again, I always like it because it's through time of history, which I find interesting. And she basically makes like a deal, you could say, with the devil in a way, to get, you know, what she wants. I don't want to give it away in the story, but then basically what ends up being as part of this deal, which she doesn't realize when she makes it, is that people don't remember her. So like her own family, people, just as soon as she walks away, they've forgotten. It's like they've never met her before. They have no idea who she is. So she can't really leave a mark on history. She can't leave a mark on people, which you can imagine how insane of a life that would be. So it's very interesting concept, I think. And I did really enjoy, you know, seeing that. So again, I think it's a really good book. I think I would recommend it to people. It's definitely something different. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, best book ever, you know, I love it so much, like going insane over it. I feel like some people are personally, but it wasn't horrible, and I did get into it and I read it. So 4 out of 5 stars for me. But that is everything for today's video. Thanks for sticking, you know, with me through this all. If you've been listening through this whole video, thank you so much. And I will see you hopefully soon with another video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.